My name is Catherine Reed. I'm 34 years old, and I work as a contract data analyst for pharmaceutical companies. It's the kind of job where you learn to read patterns in numbers before you see them in people. But on the morning, my sister stood in my kitchen screaming that I owed the family everything. I realized I'd been tracking the wrong data set for 8 years. The coffee in my hand was still hot. The mug said, "World's okayest sister," a Christmas gift from 2 years ago that I'd kept because throwing it away felt like admitting something I wasn't ready to name. Vanessa's voice cracked when she said it, spittle forming at the corner of her mouth, finger jabbing toward my face like a prosecutor delivering a closing argument. "You owe us, Catherine. You owe Mom. You owe Dad. You owe me. We gave you everything. And you act like you're too good to help your own family." I didn't raise my voice. I set the mug down on the counter with the same deliberate care I use when closing a spreadsheet after finding an error that invalidates 6 months of work. Then I asked the question I'd been avoiding since 2016. "How much do you think I owe you?" She blinked. The performance faltered for just a second. Behind her, through the kitchen window, I could see the driveway where her car was parked. A leased BMW X5. Titanium silver. The monthly payment alone was more than my grocery budget. "It's not about money," she snapped, recovering. "It's about being there. It's about family." I nodded slowly. Then I walked to my desk in the corner of the living room, opened my laptop, and pulled up a folder I'd been maintaining since the day I realized my family saw me as an ATM with a pulse. "Let me show you something," I said. "Before I explain what happened when I turned that screen around, you need to understand how I got here. Not the moment I broke. The years before it. The pattern I didn't see until it had already written itself into every corner of my life. I grew up in a mid-sized suburb outside of Portland. My parents, Linda and Robert Reed, were what people call comfortable. Dad worked in insurance. Mom taught elementary school. They owned a 3-bedroom house with a yard that needed mowing and a mortgage that didn't keep them awake at night. By every measurable standard, we were fine. But fine, I learned early, was not the same as equal. Vanessa is 3 years younger than me. She arrived with complications, premature birth, respiratory issues, a NICU stay that lasted 6 weeks. My parents never said it directly, but the message was woven into every interaction from that point forward. Vanessa was fragile. Vanessa needed extra care. Vanessa deserved compensation for the rough start life had given her. I was 7 when I first understood that my role in the family was to not need things. Mom enrolled Vanessa in dance classes when she was 4. I asked if I could take piano lessons. Mom said we couldn't afford 2 extracurriculars. When I was 12, Vanessa got braces. I had the same crooked bite. "You'll get them next year," Dad promised. I never did. When I brought it up at 15, he looked confused, like I'd invented the memory. "Your teeth are fine, Catherine. Stop being dramatic." I learned to stop asking. I learned that asking made me difficult. Difficult daughters don't get help. They get lectures about gratitude and perspective. When college came, the gap widened into a chasm. Vanessa wanted to go to a private liberal arts school in Vermont. Tuition was $52,000 a year. My parents refinanced the house to make it happen. I got into the state university with a partial academic scholarship. I worked 3 jobs to cover the rest. Dad clapped me on the shoulder the day I graduated with a degree in mathematics and said, "See? You didn't need our help. You've always been the tough one." I didn't correct him. I didn't tell him that I'd eaten ramen 4 nights a week for 2 years, or that I'd deferred a semester because I couldn't make rent and tuition at the same time. I just nodded and smiled, because that's what the tough one does. The pattern was set. Vanessa needed. I managed. The financial bleeding started slowly. Small requests that didn't feel like demands. In 2016, Vanessa called from Vermont during her junior year. She was crying. Her car had broken down, and the repair was going to cost $800. She didn't have it. She'd already maxed out the credit card Dad had co-signed for emergencies. "Can you help me, Kath? Just this once? I'll pay you back." I sent the money. I was 26, working my first real contract job. I had savings. It felt wrong to say no. She didn't pay me back. When I mentioned it 6 months later, she looked at me like I'd asked her to donate a kidney. "You're seriously going to nickel and dime me over a car repair? That's so petty." I dropped it. I told myself it wasn't worth the fight. In 2017, Mom called. Vanessa had graduated and was moving to Seattle to pursue a career in graphic design. She needed help with the deposit on an apartment. First month, last month, security deposit. Total $4,200. "We'd help her ourselves," Mom said, "but we're still recovering from the tuition payments. You're doing so well, Catherine. You can afford it." I could afford it because I lived in a studio apartment with a radiator that only worked half the time, and I brought my lunch to work in a plastic container that was older than some of my coworkers. But I sent the money. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself Vanessa would stand on her own feet once she got started. That same year, Dad needed dental work. Emergency root canal. Insurance covered half. He asked if I could cover the other $1,500. "It's for Dad," Mom said when she called. "You know he'd do the same for you." I didn't ask when Dad had ever done the same for me. I just sent the money. By 2018, the requests weren't requests anymore. They were assumptions. Vanessa called every few months with a new crisis. Her freelance work wasn't paying enough. Her roommate bailed on rent. She needed a new laptop for design work. She needed to get her car detailed for a client meeting. She needed. And I gave, every time. Not because I was generous. Because saying no felt like confirming what I'd always suspected they believed. That I was selfish, cold, the daughter who counted pennies while her family struggled. The breaking point didn't come with fanfare. It came on a Tuesday in March, during a family video call I'd agreed to join, even though I had a project deadline at midnight. Vanessa was talking about a trip she wanted to take. New Zealand, 3 weeks. She'd found a great deal, only $6,000 for flights and lodging. "I just need a little help to make it happen," she said, smiling at the camera. Before I could respond, Mom jumped in. "Catherine can help. She's always so good about these things." Not a question, a statement. I stared at my own face in the tiny square at the bottom of the screen. I looked tired. I looked older than 32. I looked like someone who'd been hemorrhaging money and dignity for so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like to keep both. "I can't," I said. The silence was immediate and sharp. "What do you mean you can't?" Vanessa asked. Her smile had vanished. "I mean, I don't have $6,000 to give you for a vacation." Mom's expression shifted to concern that looked a lot like disappointment. "Catherine, honey, it's not giving. It's helping. That's what families do." "I've been helping for 8 years," I said quietly. "I'm tapped out." Dad spoke for the first time. "Are you saying you won't help your sister?" "I'm saying I can't keep paying for a life I'm not living." Vanessa's face flushed red. "Wow. Okay. So you're just going to abandon me because I'm not as boring as you are?" "Vanessa," Mom warned, but there was no real force behind it. I closed the laptop. I sat in the dark of my living room, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, and realized that for the first time in my adult life, I'd said no. And the sky hadn't fallen, but the fallout was coming. They didn't call for 2 weeks. Then Mom sent a text. "We're all very hurt by what you said. Vanessa feels abandoned. Family is supposed to support each other, Catherine. I don't know where this coldness is coming from." I read it 3 times. Each time, the word coldness cut a little deeper. I thought about responding. I thought about explaining that I'd sent Vanessa the car repair money, the apartment deposit, the laptop fund, the dental bill, the emergency grocery money, the insurance copay, the vet bill for her dog, the speeding ticket she couldn't afford to pay, the bridesmaid dress I bought for her friend's wedding, the loan for her business idea that never materialized. But I didn't. Because I knew it wouldn't matter. In their version of the story, I was the one keeping score. I was the one who'd turned love into a ledger. So instead, I did something I should have done years ago. I started documenting. I'm a data analyst. My job is to find patterns in chaos, to make sense of numbers that don't want to be understood, so I treated my family like a data set. I went back through 8 years of bank statements, Venmo transactions, PayPal records, and credit card statements. Every time I'd sent money to Vanessa, to Mom, to Dad, I logged it. Date, amount, stated reason, whether repayment was promised, whether repayment occurred. It took me 4 days. 4 days of sitting at my kitchen table, cross-referencing records, watching the numbers climb. When I was done, I had a 47-page spreadsheet. Color-coded, itemized, verified. The total was $127,438. $127,438 over 8 years, an average of $15,929 per year, roughly $1,327 per month. I sat there staring at that number and felt something crack open inside my chest. Not grief, clarity. I'd paid for Vanessa's life while putting my own on layaway. I saved the file, I backed it up. And then I waited. The call came 3 months later. Vanessa was getting married. Her fiancé, Brad, worked in tech. They'd been dating for 8 months. The wedding was going to be in Napa Valley. Vineyard ceremony, farm-to-table reception, string quartet, 200 guests. "We're so excited," Mom gushed over the phone. "It's going to be beautiful." "That's great," I said carefully. "We're calling because we need to talk about the budget." Here it comes, I thought. "Vanessa wants you to be a bridesmaid," Mom continued. "And we were hoping you could help with some of the costs. The venue deposit is steep. And your father and I have already stretched as far as we can." "How much are you asking for?" Mom hesitated. "Just $15,000 to help cover the venue and the florals. It's a lot, I know, but you've always been so generous, and Vanessa really wants this day to be perfect." I let the silence sit. "Catherine?" "I'll think about it," I said. "Think about it?" Mom's voice sharpened. "Catherine, this is your sister's wedding. What's there to think about?" "I need to check my finances." "Your finances?" "Catherine, you make good money. This shouldn't be—" "I'll let you know," I said, and ended the call. That night, I opened the spreadsheet. I added a new line at the bottom. Projected request, wedding contribution, $15,000 new total, $142,438. I saved it. I stared at it. And then I made a decision that would fracture my family in ways I didn't fully understand yet. I wasn't going to send money. I was going to send the truth. The wedding was 4 months away when Vanessa showed up at my door unannounced. She looked good. Hair freshly highlighted. Nails done. She was wearing a blouse I recognized from a boutique downtown that charged $200 for a single item. "We need to talk," she said, brushing past me into my apartment. I closed the door. "About the wedding?" "About you being selfish." The word hung in the air like smoke. "Mom told me you said you'd think about it," Vanessa continued, pacing my small living room. "Do you have any idea how insulting that is? This is my wedding, Catherine, the biggest day of my life, and you're acting like it's some kind of burden." "It's $15,000, I said quietly. "So?" "You have it." "How do you know what I have?" She stopped pacing, looked at me like I'd asked a stupid question. "Because you always have it. You've always had money saved. You've always been fine." "I've always been fine," I repeated slowly, "because I don't spend $6,000 on trips to New Zealand." Her face flushed. "That was one time, and I didn't even go because you refused to help." "I didn't refuse. I said I couldn't afford it." "Same thing." "No," I said, voice still calm. "It's not." Vanessa crossed her arms. "You know what? I'm done asking nicely. You're going to help pay for this wedding. Because if you don't, everyone's going to know exactly what kind of person you are. Selfish, cold, the sister who couldn't be bothered to show up when it mattered." Something in me shifted. The last thread of obligation snapped clean. "You want to know what kind of person I am?" I walked to my desk. "Let me show you." I opened the laptop, pulled up the spreadsheet, turned the screen toward her. This is every dollar I've sent you, Mom and Dad, over the last 8 years. Vanessa's eyes scanned the screen. I watched her face change as the numbers registered. Confusion, disbelief, then something uglier. You tracked this? I documented it. That's insane. Who does that? Someone who got tired of being told she doesn't contribute. She scrolled. Her jaw tightened with every line. Half of this is exaggerated. I never asked for some of these things. I have the Venmo receipts and the text messages. Would you like me to pull those up too? Vanessa shoved the laptop away. This is sick, Catherine. You're weaponizing helping your family. Do you know how messed up that is? You showed up at my door and called me selfish, I said. I'm showing you data. It's not data, it's manipulation. Then let me ask you this. I leaned forward. How much have you paid back? She blinked. From the car repair in 2016, the apartment deposit, the laptop, the emergency grocery money, the loan for your business idea. How much of that have you repaid? She faltered. I was going to. You never intended to. That's not fair. Vanessa, I kept my voice level. I have sent you and our parents $127,438 over 8 years. You have repaid $0. And now you're standing in my apartment, calling me selfish, because I won't give you another $15,000 for a wedding I wasn't even sure I'd be invited to until you needed money. She stared at me. For a moment, I thought I saw something break in her expression. Guilt, maybe, or just shock at hearing it out loud. But then she straightened her shoulders. You owe us. I owe you? Yes, we're family. You owe us. That's when I knew the conversation was over. There was no reaching someone who genuinely believed that love was a debt I'd been racking up since childhood. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of my apartment. You're seriously going to… Get out. She grabbed her purse, stopped at the door. Mom and Dad are going to hear about this. Good, I said. Send them the link to the spreadsheet. She slammed the door hard enough to rattle the frame. I sat down on my couch. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I felt calm, clear. I'd just ended my relationship with my sister, and I didn't regret it. The fallout came fast. Mom called within an hour. Catherine Marie Reed, what did you say to your sister? I didn't respond. I just sent her the spreadsheet link. What is this? Every dollar I've sent this family since 2016. Silence. Then, you've been keeping track? Yes. That is the most hurtful thing I've ever seen. You've turned our family into a transaction. No, Mom. You did that when you started assuming I'd pay for everything without asking. We never assumed. You called me generous when I sent money. You called me selfish when I didn't. That's not love. That's leverage. She hung up. Dad called 30 minutes later. Your mother is devastated. I'm sorry she feels that way. Are you? Because it seems like you're going out of your way to hurt this family. I showed Vanessa a record of financial transactions. If that hurts, maybe it's because the truth is uncomfortable. The truth, Dad said slowly, is that you've always kept yourself separate from us. You've always acted like you're better. And now you're using money to punish your sister for needing help. I didn't punish her. I stopped enabling her. Same thing, he said, echoing Vanessa's words. I ended the call. Over the next 2 days, I received 17 text messages, 12 from Mom, 3 from Dad, 2 from Vanessa. None of them asked if I was okay. None of them acknowledged the number at the bottom of the spreadsheet. They just wanted me to apologize, to take it back, to admit I was being cruel. I blocked all of them. The wedding happened without me. I didn't attend. I wasn't uninvited. I just didn't go. I spent that Saturday refinishing a bookshelf I'd bought at a thrift store. I sanded the old paint off, applied a fresh coat of teal, and arranged my books in alphabetical order by author. It was quiet, calm, mine. I didn't think about Vanessa walking down the aisle, or Mom crying in the front row, or the empty seat where I should have been. I didn't think about the photos that would circulate without me in them, or the stories they'd tell about the sister who couldn't be bothered to show up. I thought about the 127th 430 A's, and I thought about all the things I could have done with that money. I could have bought a house. I could have traveled. I could have taken the photography class I'd wanted to take for 5 years, but kept putting off because I was busy funding someone else's life. By the time the sun set, the bookshelf was dry. I stepped back and looked at it. It wasn't perfect. One side was slightly uneven, but it was sturdy, functional, honest. It was enough. 6 months passed. I heard nothing from my family, not on my birthday, not on Thanksgiving, not on Christmas. I spent the holidays alone. I cooked a small turkey breast and watched old movies and went to bed at 10 p.m. without guilt. In January, I got a LinkedIn message from a former coworker. She'd moved to a pharmaceutical company in Boston and wanted to know if I'd be interested in a senior analyst role. The pay was 40% higher than my current contract, full benefits. Relocation package. I accepted the offer. I put my apartment on the market. I sold my furniture. I packed my life into a U-Haul and drove across the country with the windows down and the radio loud. I didn't tell my family I was leaving. They didn't ask. It's been 2 years now. I live in a brownstone in Brookline. I have a balcony with a small garden where I grow tomatoes and basil. I have a job I'm good at and coworkers who respect me. I have a life I built with my own hands, my own money, my own choices. I don't talk to my parents. I don't talk to Vanessa. Sometimes I wonder if they think about me, if they ever opened that spreadsheet and really looked at it, if they ever added up the cost of their assumptions and realized what they took. But mostly, I don't wonder, because wondering means I'm still waiting for them to see me, and I'm done waiting. Last week, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Vanessa. "I'm pregnant. I thought you should know. Call me if you want to meet your niece or nephew." I stared at the message for a long time. I thought about what the old Catherine would have done. She would have called. She would have sent a gift. She would have flown back for the baby shower and paid for half the crib and pretended that the last 2 years hadn't happened. But I'm not her anymore. I deleted the message. I blocked the number. And then I went to my balcony, watered the tomatoes, and watched the sunset over a city that doesn't know my history. A city where no one calls me generous as a way of asking for more. I learned something in those 8 years of bleeding myself dry for people who never said thank you. You don't owe anyone your life, not even family, especially not family who only sees you when they need something. The spreadsheet is still saved on my laptop. I haven't looked at it in months. I don't need to. The number is burned into my memory. 127,438. That's what it cost me to learn that love without reciprocity isn't love. It's just a very expensive education. And for the first time in my life, I've finally graduated.